Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I didn't plan to lose my temper that night, but something about seeing her dressed up, like she was going somewhere I wasn't meant to be part of, struck a chord deep inside me. My name is Ethan, I'm 38, and I've been married to Clara for 12 years. I've never been the jealous type. Not at work, not at parties, not even when our friends teased me for being overly calm. But that evening, the calm in me shattered. Started like any other Friday. I was in the kitchen, finishing the dishes, and Clara came in wearing a new dress I hadn't seen before. It was simple, elegant, something she could have worn to a small gathering, but in her eyes, there was that spark, a mix of mischief and excitement, that immediately put me on edge. Going somewhere? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She smiled, tilted her head slightly, and replied, "Just a quick dinner with a friend." I paused, feeling the weight of 12 years of routine marriage pressing against me. I said softly, almost as a warning, "If you leave tonight, don't come back." The words hit her like a brick. I didn't mean to scare her. I meant to draw a line between respect, between loyalty, between what we had promised each other all those years. She laughed lightly, waved her hand, and left, her heels clicking down the hallway in a rhythm that seemed to mock my sense of control. I stayed behind, pacing the living room. My heart raced, not with anger, not exactly, but with that uneasy tension that comes when you know something is about to change. My mind went over the small signs I had ignored for months. The sudden late nights, the extra phone calls, the way she avoided me with casual excuses that now felt rehearsed. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew she was testing boundaries, and that small spark of mischief in her eyes told me tonight wasn't going to be ordinary. Around 10, I heard the familiar sound of a car engine pulling up outside. My stomach sank. It wasn't Clara. She was supposed to be at her friend's dinner. I peeked through the blinds and saw her stepping out, but not alone. And then I remembered the small action I had taken earlier in the week, something almost impulsive. I had set up a little camera in the living room, a precaution I had never imagined I would need. I watched the footage later that night, my hands shaking. Clara was walking toward the passenger side of a sleek black sedan parked across the street, laughing with someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't just the fact that she had gone behind my back. It was the thrill in her expression, the way she didn't even glance toward our home. I felt an odd mix of anger and sadness, the kind that hits your chest like a lead weight and makes it hard to breathe. I remember sitting down at the edge of the couch, taking a deep breath, and realizing that I had reached a point I had avoided admitting for months. I couldn't just let this slide. The trust, the years of shared mornings and late-night talks, had been chipped away piece by piece, and tonight, the final nail had been driven in. This was when I decided to take control, not in anger, but with clarity. I began drafting a message, carefully choosing my words. I didn't want to fight. I wanted her to understand the seriousness of what leaving meant. I wrote, "If you leave tonight, you don't come back. Consider this the final boundary." I hesitated before sending it, thinking about the consequences. But the second I hit send, a strange sense of relief washed over me. I had finally spoken my truth. By midnight, she returned. Or at least someone returned to the house. Clara walked in quietly, like nothing had happened. But I could see it in her eyes. Hesitation, uncertainty, and maybe a hint of fear. And then, I noticed something unusual. Her phone kept buzzing. Notifications, quick glances, messages she quickly hid as she moved across the living room. I had never felt so unseen in my own home. I realized that no words, no pleas, could undo the tension she had created. But then something caught my eye. A reflection in the window from the neighbor's porch, a figure holding a small camera, recording her. The reality hit me. Clara's actions, her little excursions, were no longer secret. She hadn't just gone out. She had been exposed, in the most literal sense. And that's when I understood the strange, ironic twist of life. Sometimes, the universe doesn't need to punish someone for their choices. You just need to step back and let consequences unfold naturally. The shock, the realization of being seen, changed her demeanor entirely. She froze, her smile gone, replaced by uncertainty that hadn't been there all evening. At that moment, I felt the weight of years pressing down, but also a clarity I hadn't experienced in months. I wasn't the villain. I wasn't the jealous husband spiraling out of control. I was a man reclaiming his boundaries, his respect, his life. And the way she reacted, seeing the footage and knowing the truth, said more than any argument ever could. If you've ever faced a moment where someone underestimated your boundaries, comment below and share your story. Let's talk about it. I leaned back, letting the tension drain, and realized that nights like this reveal the truth. Not just about relationships, but about yourself, about the patience and the limits you carry without realizing. And as Clara stood frozen, I knew the rules had changed. The game was no longer hers to play. It was mine to manage with quiet, unwavering clarity. Clara's eyes met mine, and for the first time in months, I saw hesitation instead of the familiar spark of mischief. The energy in the room had shifted. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. For once, she was confronted by the reality she had been avoiding, and I stayed silent, letting the moment speak for itself. I took a deep breath and let my voice cut through the quiet. Clara, I've spent years trusting, believing, and giving you space to be yourself. But boundaries matter. What you did tonight, it wasn't just about going out. It was about disrespecting the life we built together. She opened her mouth to reply, but no words came. Instead, she fidgeted with her phone, looking anywhere but at me. I realized that confrontation, in its quietest form, can be more powerful than shouting. This wasn't about anger. It was about awareness, clarity, and the consequences that follow choices. I sat down on the edge of the sofa, still maintaining distance, and reflected on all the little warning signs I had ignored over the past year. The missed calls, the evasive stories, the subtle lies that added up. It hit me then that sometimes people test limits not out of malice, but because they've forgotten that limits exist. And it's your responsibility to enforce them, for yourself, for your peace of mind. Clara finally looked at me, her eyes wide, searching. There was a flicker of recognition, maybe even regret, but also fear. It was subtle, yet it spoke volumes. I remembered a principle I had once read. Boundaries are not just for keeping others in check. They are a declaration of self-respect. I took another step forward, not physically but emotionally. I told her, from tonight onward, things are different. You've crossed a line, and I will not allow it again. If respect can't exist here, then we need to figure out if this is still a partnership or just coexistence. She swallowed hard and nodded, almost imperceptibly. The tension in the room was tangible, like the air had thickened. Yet, there was a strange sense of relief in enforcing that clarity. I realized then that relationships aren't just about love. They're about trust, accountability, and mutual understanding. When any of those pillars crumble, nothing else can truly hold up the structure. If you know someone who struggles with setting boundaries, share this video with them. It could make a difference in how they handle their own relationships. Hours passed quietly after that. Clara moved around the room, her usual ease replaced by a careful, measured gait. I didn't mock, didn't nag. I just observed, knowing that actions speak louder than words. Her reflection in the hallway mirror caught my attention. She was thoughtful, uneasy, perhaps even scared of what she had unleashed. And that was enough. The universe has a way of balancing itself when people see the consequences of their actions firsthand. I thought about the years we had spent together. The laughter, the shared meals, the quiet evenings watching movies. Those memories were precious, but they didn't excuse repeated disrespect. Love isn't permission to ignore boundaries. It's a reason to uphold them. That clarity hit me like a revelation. If you want to hear more real-life stories about trust, respect, and the difficult choices in relationships, make sure to subscribe now. These are the stories we rarely discuss but everyone should hear. Later that night, after she had gone to bed, I replayed the events in my mind. There was anger, yes, but also a strange pride. Not pride in punishment, but pride in standing firm. Standing firm had given me control over my life and over how I would allow others to treat me. For the first time in months, I felt the freedom of being unafraid to enforce my truth. The next morning, Clara approached me cautiously. "Ethan, about last night," she started, but I cut in gently. "Actions have consequences, Clara. Let's focus on moving forward with honesty and respect. Nothing more, nothing less." She nodded, and there it was, a small sign of understanding. Not reconciliation, not complete resolution, but acknowledgement. If you believe respect and boundaries should always come first in a relationship, hit that like button. It shows you value clarity over chaos. Days turned into a week, and life continued, but something fundamental had shifted. Clara treated me differently now. Not with malice, not with resentment, but with a newfound caution that reflected the lessons she had learned. I, in turn, approached our relationship with calm authority, no longer letting small transgressions slide unnoticed. And in that balance, a strange harmony emerged, one that was quiet, respectful, and real. Tell me, have you ever had to enforce a boundary that changed a relationship? Comment below with your experience, hit like if you've faced something similar, and subscribe for more stories where tough choices lead to real growth. Looking back, I realized that night wasn't about confrontation. It was about understanding the power of clarity. It wasn't revenge, it was boundaries in action. And sometimes, the simplest act of standing firm can reveal truths that words never could. Clara's eyes had told me everything. Her hesitation and unease a reflection of choices meeting consequence. I finally understood. Respect isn't demanded, it's enforced with quiet strength, and it changes everything.